What if I told you that some of the world's most transformative inventions, things we take for granted today, were once at risk of being overshadowed or forgotten? Imagine a world devoid of these innovations, a reality drastically different from the one we inhabit. Today, we'll explore the fascinating stories behind forgotten inventions that, despite their obscurity, reshaped our lives in ways you might never have anticipated. Keep watching, because what you're about to discover may change your perspective on the everyday tools and conveniences we often overlook. Let's rewind to one of the earliest forgotten inventions that changed human history, the wheel. You might be thinking, wait, the wheel? How could that possibly be forgotten? Surprisingly, the wheel as a concept wasn't initially recognized for its full potential. It was first invented in Mesopotamia around 3500 BCE, initially used for pottery, not for transportation. So, what transformed this simple circular object into a vehicle for progress? It took centuries before humans recognized its revolutionary capacity for mobility. Imagine living in a time when people couldn't easily transport goods over long distances. The wheel might seem basic now, but its initial obscurity reminds us that sometimes, the most powerful inventions lie hidden behind our conventional views. Curiously enough, consider the concept of the bicycle, one of the greatest inventions in personal transport that almost didn't make it. With the invention of the dandy horse in the early 19th century, it lacked pedals and was essentially just a wooden frame on two wheels. It wasn't until a Frenchman named Pierre Michaud introduced pedals attached to the front wheel that riding became a pastime rather than a chore. Can you imagine a world where the bicycle never evolved? Today, biking is a global phenomenon, helping reduce pollution while promoting individual freedom and health. Yet, for a while, it lingered on the brink of obscurity. How close we were to a world lacking this simple joy. Fast forward to the 20th century. Enter the astonishing story of the effervescent tablet, a brilliant idea that emerged unexpectedly from the contributions of an inventor named Charles Alderton. In the late 1800s, Alderton was trying to create a refreshing soda flavor, eventually leading to the birth of Dr. Pepper. But it was the event of creating a carbonated pill that would dissolve in water that really piqued the market's interest. Alderton's desire for innovation transformed medicinal practices forever. Today, we often pop these tablets for relief from headaches or ailments without thinking twice. What if these simple, effervescent remedies never became mainstream? It's disruptive to even think about. Another area of life that was revolutionized through what could easily be regarded as a forgotten invention is the microwave. Yes, the microwave oven, a kitchen staple, has a surprisingly humble origin that is almost lost in the sands of time. In 1945, Percy Spencer, while in an industrial laboratory, noticed a chocolate bar melting in his pocket. His curiosity about this phenomenon led him to experiment with radar technology, culminating in the first microwave oven's invention. Can you imagine if this technology had never made it to market? Dinner parties and late-night snacks would have looked very different. The microwave's near-forgotten roots tell a tale of curiosity and genius that transformed cooking forever. What's even more surprising? The computer mouse, introduced in the early 1960s by Douglas Engelbart, almost faded into obscurity until the graphical user interface came into play decades later. Can you picture navigating the complex digital worlds we roam today without this simple device in your hands? Its unassuming design, a 3-button mouse with a wooden shell, was met with skepticism when it was first revealed. Instead, people favored command line inputs, which were far less intuitive. It wasn't until the late 1980s that companies began incorporating it into personal computers. It's astounding to think how our relationship with technology hinges on a device almost lost to time. Imagine the hours you've saved typing away with just a few clicks, but the evolution wasn't a straight line. Engelbart's invention had to battle against fears of something new and unfamiliar. The lesson in this? Innovation doesn't always shine under the spotlight immediately. Sometimes, it's the quiet persistence of usability that assures its place in history. To think that a simple tool like the mouse once languished at the crossroads of technological hesitation. A good question to ask next: what about the commonplace zipper? An invention we often overlook, the zipper took considerable time to gain acceptance. Originally designed in the late 19th century by Whitcomb Judson, it was marketed as a fastening device for shoes but failed miserably in sales. It wasn't until Gideon Sunback improved its design in the early 1900s that it became the versatile fastening method we use today. Its evolution from an overlooked accessory to an essential part of clothing and accessories underscores how innovation often involves trial, error, and incremental improvement. This brings us to the remarkable world of the Ferris wheel. Invented as an eye-catching centerpiece for the World's Fair in 1893 by George Washington Gale Ferris Jr., this gigantic structure symbolized engineering achievement. However, it was initially met with skepticism. Many considered it an unnecessary amusement. Yet, as it grandly turned, it not only provided a thrilling ride but also showcased technological prowess, opening the doors for amusement parks worldwide. Imagine the moments of joy it has brought to families, lovers, and tourists since. It teaches us that sometimes, amusement leads to profound cultural significance. Now, have you ever thought about the light bulb and what might have happened if Thomas Edison and his contemporaries had failed? We typically credit Edison for the invention of the light bulb, but the truth is that the idea existed long before it lit up our rooms and cities. Sir Humphrey Davy experimented with electric light in the early 1800s. However, it wasn't until many iterations and advancements that Edison commercialized it and made it accessible to the public. Can you imagine living in a world where electric light never became a reality? The possibilities for what civilization might have lost are staggering. What becomes particularly intriguing is the story of the modern-day safety pin. Safety pins, as we know them today, emerged in 1849 from the mind of Walter Hunt, who wanted to create a fastening device that could prevent pin pricks. This simple invention probably doesn't stir up grand thoughts, yet it represents ingenuity and practicality. It initially remained a novel alternative to the often damaging needle and thread. A world without the safety pin might still have people struggling with loose clothing or itching to fix a quick wardrobe malfunction. It's fascinating to realize how even something so simple can evoke feelings of reliability and nostalgia. Next up is the animated cartoon. You might be surprised to learn that Thomas Edison's team produced the first animated motion picture, kinetoscope, in the late 19th century. But did you know that early animations were looked down upon as mere novelties? This concept was nearly a short-lived passion until Walt Disney took it to soaring heights with the evolution of animation technology, forever changing our world of entertainment and storytelling. The cultural impact of cartoons, with their ability to convey humor, emotion, and messages, continues to resonate with people of all ages. It's captivating to ponder how a simple animation, once dismissed, became a cornerstone of modern media and art. Surprisingly, the concept of reserved seating in theaters could have evolved quite differently. While the idea is now ubiquitous, it didn't emerge until the late 20th century. Imagine standing in line for hours, only to find that there were no dedicated spots. While reserved seating became common in sporting events and movie theaters, it faced days of reluctance, with skeptics raising concerns over not wanting to allocate spaces for ticket purchases that could easily fluctuate. A world without reserved seating would fundamentally shift our experiences in some of the very places we love. But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the umbrella, a common object with an often overlooked origin. The umbrella has existed for thousands of years, initially as a sunshade in ancient Egypt and China. Yet, it wasn't until the 18th century that this device became popular in Europe as a means of protection against rain. However, men largely distrusted its practicality. The narrative of the umbrella switching from a woman's accessory to an indispensable item for everyone is nothing short of fascinating. Who would have thought that such a simple object could go through such a rigorous journey of acceptance? As we recognize the evolution and re-emergence of these extraordinary inventions, let's not overlook the significance of the humble paperclip. This little device made its debut in the late 1800s but went largely unnoticed until industries began to proliferate and necessitated an effective means of binding paperwork. Isn't it astonishing how something as simple as a loop of wire can streamline our organization and enhance productivity? It appears to be a menial tool but has a rich legacy that tells us about the importance of organization in our societies. Finally, we come to our journey's halfway point with one last forgotten invention that will truly leave you in awe: the ballpoint pen. Introduced in 1938 by Laszlo Biro, the ballpoint pen had to compete against the popularity of fountain pens, which required constant ink refills. Can you imagine a world where only messy, ink-soaked pages filled our notebooks? As people recognized the convenience of the ballpoint pen, its popularity skyrocketed, marking a shift not just in writing but also in efficiency. You may be wondering, what's coming next? These stories illustrate not just creativity but the constant struggle of innovation against dismissal or indifference. Join us as we continue exploring more forgotten inventions, their incredible impacts, and how they have transformed our world into the one we know today. Because sometimes, it's the unsung heroes of innovation that tell the most profound stories about human ingenuity. Stay tuned for the next part, where we'll dive deeper into more remarkable transformations that have defined our existence. As we delve into the second half of our exploration, let's revisit the realm of innovation with the invention of the Post-it note. While today it's hard to imagine an office or classroom without these vibrant sticky notes, the invention itself arose from a fortunate accident. In 1968, Spencer Silver, an employee at 3M, was attempting to create a super strong adhesive. Instead, he developed a low-tack adhesive that stuck to surfaces without leaving a residue. Initially, the substance went largely unnoticed until Arthur Fry, a colleague, found a novel application for it, marking pages in his hymnal without damaging them. What could have been a forgotten experiment turned into a staple of organization and communication worldwide. The Post-it note teaches us that innovation often emerges from unexpected beginnings, allowing a simple idea to carve out its own niche in our lives. Let's shift our focus to an icon of leisure, the Frisbee. The origins of this flying disc tell a tale of unforeseen transformation. It began in the 19th century as a pie tin made by the Frisbee Pie Company in Connecticut. Students at Yale University discovered that the tins could be thrown like flying saucers. This led to the commercialization of the Frisbee in the late 20th century by Walter Morrison, who refined the design for better flights. Today, it's not merely a toy but also an avenue for exercise and social bonding, illustrating how something so humble as a pie tin can become a symbol of outdoor fun and community. Now consider the remarkable service of the vacuum cleaner, often taken for granted but once nearly relegated to obscurity. The first electric vacuum cleaner was invented by Hubert Cecil Booth in 1901, who created a machine so large it had to be horse-drawn. Its cumbersome nature and hefty price made it accessible only to the wealthy at first, limiting its widespread adoption. However, it was the development of smaller, more affordable models in the decades that followed that transformed household cleaning. Today, we hardly think twice about the convenience a vacuum offers to keep our homes tidy. This invention illustrates how practical advancements champion convenience and redefine domestic life, nurturing the environment in which we live. Next up is an invention that has massively shaped indoor dining, the rotary phone. While we often think of smartphones as the pinnacle of communication technology, the rotary phone paved the way for what we enjoy today. Invented in the 1890s, this device was initially met with skepticism. People were accustomed to the operator-assisted system, and the concept of dialing their own calls felt foreign and complex. It wasn't until the 1920s that rotary dialing became more accepted and, eventually, necessary. Its simplicity and capacity for direct communication would lay the groundwork for phone innovations seen in the decades ahead. The telephone may seem like a mundane fixture of daily life, but its humble rotary beginnings remind us of a time when personal connection was an emerging frontier. As we explore more revolutionary inventions, let's take a moment to appreciate the complexity of the modern elevator. Elevators have transformed the very fabric of our cities, allowing buildings to soar to incredible heights. But did you know that the first passenger elevator was installed in 1857 by Elisha Otis? Initially, elevators were treacherous, often resulting in accidents due to the absence of safety brakes. It wasn't until Otis demonstrated a safety elevator that the public began to trust this technology, allowing skyscrapers to become a reality. The elevator symbolizes not only architectural progress but also how essential safety and reliability are to innovation, proof that trust is the cornerstone of acceptance. Let's shake things up with the beloved chocolate chip cookie. Often seen as an indulgent treat, the chocolate chip cookie is a classic example of how culinary invention can be a happy accident. In the 1930s, Ruth Wakefield, who owned the Toll House Inn, created this delightful dessert while experimenting with chocolate. Planning to create a chocolate dough, she instead used chopped chocolate bars, leading to an entirely new creation. Today, this cookie is emblematic of comfort and home, an example of how a simple kitchen mishap blossomed into a worldwide phenomenon. It's delightful to think how one small decision shaped a family tradition across generations. Now, let's turn our attention to the invention of the personal computer. While many acknowledge figures like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates when thinking about the rise of personal computing, it's pivotal to remember the early efforts of innovators like Alan Turing and John Bardeen, who laid the groundwork for computer technology long before we saw household desktop models. The first personal computers, which appeared in the late 1970s and early 1980s, were often met with incredulity. Many viewed them as overpriced and unnecessary luxuries. How different would our education, work, and lives look today without the evolution of computers? Their transition from novelty to necessity illustrates how powerful an idea can be when it resonates with demands for efficiency and access. Speaking of efficiency, let's not overlook the journey of the electric toothbrush. Introduced in the 1950s, it was initially met with hesitance. Many found the concept of a battery-operated toothbrush to be unnecessary and expensive compared to its manual counterparts. However, as research revealed the substantial benefits of electric toothbrushes for oral health, consumer acceptance grew. In today's world, what began as a quirky idea now stands as a testament to advancements in health and technology. The simplification of daily routines underscores how products can emerge from skepticism to trusted health allies. Another innovation that might surprise you is the birth of the modern toilet. The water closet made significant strides as early as the 16th century, but it wasn't until the late 19th century that widespread acceptance began. Joseph Brahma invented an improved toilet design in the 1770s, although it wasn't until Thomas Crapper popularized flush toilets that society embraced indoor plumbing. Imagine living in a world without modern sanitation systems. The toilet, though often an afterthought, has a profound role in public health and hygiene, emphasizing how even the most overlooked inventions save lives and enhance our daily existence. As we consider the technology powering our communication, let's not neglect the fascinating tale of the remote control. This revolutionary device emerged in the 1950s, initially operating televisions with clunky, wired models. The first true wireless remote was created by Robert Adler, known as the Zenith Space Command. Surprisingly, it found skepticism. Consumers were wary of the convenience it offered. However, as television became central to family life, the remote quickly became indispensable, altering our viewing habits and expectations forever. This once overlooked device fundamentally changed the way we interacted with media, reflecting how convenience can become an integral part of our daily lives. And finally, let's talk about the paper airplane, a simple creation that transcends generations. While made from a sheet of paper, its humble design, rooted in childhood play, can reveal much about principles of aerodynamics and engineering. Did you know that they were used even in ancient China for educational purposes? While it may not fit the mold of a revolutionary invention, the paper airplane captures the essence of trial and error, inspiring curiosity and experimentation in young minds. It demonstrates how simple joys can lay the groundwork for future innovators, encouraging creativity and a spirit of inquiry in future generations. As our exploration draws to a close, it becomes evident that each forgotten invention we've discussed possesses a story steeped in resilience, creativity, and surprises. These innovations offer a compelling reminder that the fruits of human ingenuity often lie in the peripheries of our everyday lives. From the post-it note to the remote control, each invention speaks to our innate drive to improve our world, navigating the delicate balance between skepticism and acceptance. In recognizing these overlooked inventions, we can better appreciate the context in which they emerged, the challenges they faced, the doubts they quelled, and the incredible impacts they've had on our lives. As we move forward, let's carry forward these inspiring stories of persistence and imagination, embracing the potential for innovation in our own lives. Now, let's embark on the journey of recognizing and celebrating the unsung heroes of our past. Whether in the form of machines, household items, or even culinary delights, it's crucial to acknowledge how these innovations shape our experiences today. Here's to the forgotten inventions. May we continue to find inspiration in their histories, celebrating their impact, and remaining ever curious about what the next wave of innovation holds for us. Thank you for joining this journey through the stories of yesterday that continue to influence our lives today.